Friday, it's 4 p.m. Central European summertime, and that can only mean one thing. Hello and welcome to another Learn BI online live stream with me, Adam Finer, helping you do more with live stream. That wasn't a good idea. Hello and welcome to another Learn BI online live stream with me, Adam Finer, helping you do more with data. In this live stream this week, we're going to look at how you go about costing a BI project for a client if you were doing so as a BI consultant. So we're going to be talking all things kind of project management and all the factors that you should consider that go into creating your costing for the project. Before we get into all of that, I am just going to say that a few days ago, we hit over 40,000 subscribers for the channel, which is huge. And on top of that, we went past 1.5 million views of my videos, which is crazy considering, there are only 30 odd videos on my channel. And I never in a million years thought I'd get to this stage. So thank you so much to everyone who's liked, shared, subscribed, and all that stuff. Thank you a million times. What was I going to say? And in fact, could you hit the like button now, just while you're here? Just hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed already, please do hit that button as well, as it does really help out the channel and feeds the algorithm and gets my content out to more and more people. Don't forget to do that. And if you'd like to make a donation to the channel, if you feel you're getting value out of this, then please do so. You can do so via the thanks button underneath the video or via the super chat option. Okay, then let's get on to it. And if you've got any questions whatsoever, please do put them in the comments. In fact, we've already got one. Let's see. Definitely no random videos. Hello, Pat. Welcome back. Congrats on the great success. It's well deserved. Thank you very much indeed. And you've been a part of that success. So thank you. Any other questions you got at all? Normally, what we normally do in the live stream is that there's a theme. This time it's costing a BI project. But if you've got any questions related to anything, BI or data or even my career, my experiences, then do put it in the comments and I'll stop and we'll answer those before going back to the main kind of topic. Okie dokie. So, where are we? Let's start. Okay, so how do you cost a BI project? What are the factors that you should consider? Now, I'm sort of giving away a few secrets, but in reality, they're not actually secrets because what I'm talking about can be applied to any kind of project management scenario, be it a business intelligence project or any kind of project management. Essentially, in project management, you have a triangle with three different elements: scope, cost, and time, which all sort of go into making up the project, and we've got quality in the middle of here, making up the quality of the project, if you like. And if you change any one of these, scope, time, or cost, it can impact the quality. Normally, when you change one of them, the other two will change accordingly. So an example would be if you increase the scope of the project, but without increasing the time and the cost, obviously the quality of the project would suffer. So that's just an example. But as I said, this is something that you can look into independently of business intelligence. It's a project management concept that you can apply to all kinds of projects. Okay, so I've counted them. How many have I got? I think there are 8 different factors that go into how to cost a project. I'll go through pre-sales, project review, pre-contract admin, project proper, that's the whole actually doing the project monitoring, corrections, post-project materials, and contingencies. So these are just change. Sorry about that. Okay, so there are 8 different things that go into a costing in terms of business intelligence project in my experience. And I'll go through each of these individually, one by one. So, first one is pre-sales. What is this? Pre-sales is basically things like demos. So you would, your client will come to you and they'll have this project in mind. Perhaps they don't know about the functionalities available in certain BI tools or what's possible. You could actually create some kind of demo to show them how their project would behave, how it would work. And then you've got obviously the email and phone communications and also online meetings before the project proper, before you sort of taking on the project. So that's time as well, which needs to be taken into account, considered. You might want to also build a demo dashboard, just a sort of to show the look and feel of the kind of branding options that you can put, the colors and the interactivity options, that kind of thing. So and that's kind of like a mini proof of concept, POC. Lots of clients, especially those who are unfamiliar and quite new to BI, they don't really know what's possible and what BI tools do. They just have these ideas in their head, but they don't know the finer details of it. So you might want to, or might need to build some kind of demo dashboard or proof of concept to sort of persuade them, if you like. I've got a question here from Suri. Would you consider the cost of data pipeline, data cleansing, and more for even the tools like Power BI, Tableau? What if the whole data is unstructured? Well, to be honest with you, when you're dealing with a BI project, it's very rare that the data is unstructured. 99% of the time, I'd say. In fact, I've never, in my whole time as being a BI analyst and BI consultant, dealt with unstructured data. Semi-structured data, yes. Unstructured data, no. Business intelligence is all about connecting to business data. So predominantly SQL databases, online SaaS services via their APIs, Excel files, CSV files. It tends to be that kind of data that you're working with in BI projects. Okay. So in terms of the cost of data pipeline, that's kind of development and IT based. It's not really BI based. Okie dokie. So getting back on, project review is the next factor to consider. So this is basically taking the kind of the base requirements that your client, the potential client, has come to you with, and you need to sort of analyze the feasibility, essentially. And one of the things that you need to do is to find out what data they have, where it is, where it's stored, how it's stored. So you need to review that, and it's basically a feasibility study at this point. So you need to sort of look at what their requirements are and then try as best you can to match that with the kind of data that they have. So evaluate any potential custom SQL queries that you're going to need to make, how tables are joined together, that kind of thing. Any calculation requirements based on the data. So normally they'll give you kind of a schema. If it's a SQL database, for example, they'll give you the schema of the database in terms of its tables and what the fields are in each table. So you need to evaluate the project requirements and see if there are any calculations that are going to need to be done. Any dashboard interactivity requirements, because as I said, some clients don't know what's possible with the dashboard. And sometimes what they're asking for isn't actually possible, or it might be possible in terms of it being a feature of the BI tool, and not feasible in terms of the data that they have, etc. I mean, it can be very complicated to assess straight away whether the whether the project requirements that they have are 100% feasible and doable with the time, the budget, and the scope, etc. Okay, so this is what the project review really is. It's kind of like a feasibility study. And you may need to actually spend time writing some SQL queries and doing some of the joins and data work actually before even getting the green light and the go ahead and the sign off from the client. So you're going to be investing time before actually confirming you get the project. And perhaps you don't get the project, you will have it's all sort of experience, but you will have spent a few hours, perhaps a half a day, assessing the feasibility. So yes, it's one thing to bear in mind in terms of the costs that go into a project. And then there's also the complexity, risk, and certainty assessment. Now you can normally tell based on the different types of data that they have, the number of data sources, the amount of actual information that they can give you about the project, the actual project requirements, their knowledgeability about what the data they have is, because the client, when they're coming to you, won't know everything, won't have all the answers to all the questions that you might need to ask. So you need to assess the complexity, risk, and certainty in terms of the complexity of the requirements, the risk involved in terms of things not going according to plan, and perhaps you thinking that something is feasible to start with, but as you actually get into the project, you're not 100% sure from the get-go whether it's going to be feasible, and you won't know until you're knee deep in data. So you need to kind of assess the risk and certainty based on the information that the client gives you and their project requirements and that kind of stuff. So that's the project review. And then the project review, this assessment, normally what you do is you attribute a low, medium, or high score to it. And I'll talk about that later on. And then also part of the project review is completing the project spec document. I'll say again, project spec document. And that for me is this thing here. Okay. Basically, it lists the data sources, the name of the spreadsheet or the table that's going to be necessary, and then the data joins that are going to be necessary. So it's join one table to another on the particular joining keys. Then you'll have the different dashboards that they want here, and then here are the queries that go into each of the individual dashboards. So this is my demo dashboard, and then I've got volume by country. It's going to need the measure volume, which is probably just, this is an example, obviously, but that volume will be kind of a metric in the in one of the data sources, and it's say where it's from. If there are any attributes, so this is volume by country, so you want volume. Attribute is like dimension, so volume broken down by country, and they want it, additional comments, they want it in a map. So this is what I do, or sometimes I share with the client and ask them to do if they're kind of savvy that way. But this needs to be filled in before you to evaluate the number of queries, the number of data sources, the types of joins, the number of dashboards, that kind of thing. All of this needs to be filled in before you can go ahead and cost the project. Okay. Let's go back to here. So that was completing the spec document. Okay, got another comment from Rashid Opido. Hi from Kenya. I love your channel so much. Curious, is data analysis same as BI? Well, first of all, welcome from Kenya. Welcome. This is a question that gets asked very, very often. Basically, the answer is there is crossover. And business intelligence involves data analysis, but business intelligence analysis involves working predominantly with business data. Okay, so like the ones I was talking about earlier, it could be an ERP system or a CRM system, a relational SQL database, that kind of thing. But it contains business data. A data analyst or data analysis is just analyzing data. So it can be any kind of data. It can include statistical analysis, which isn't really used that much in business intelligence. Another thing is business intelligence is more about it's more about monitoring activity, business activity, that kind of thing. Whereas data analysis can be a whole plethora of different kinds of analyses. So hopefully that answers that one. Okay, back to, so that was project review. I think that was number 2. And then there's pre-contract admin. So you filled in the project specifications document and you need to confirm these project specifications with the client. Okay, so that's going to take a bit of time to nail down exactly what the requirements and specifications are. Then you've got to assemble the quotation, the time it takes for you to do that. And create the quotation. I normally have like it depends on the size of the project, but it's a few pages long normally, which explains what we're going to do, the scope, the cost, the time, that kind of thing. So you've got to assemble that document and send that off to the client. Then obviously getting the client to sign off and the green light, that doesn't take too long. Right, so what was that? So that was the pre-contract admin. And then there is the project proper. What I mean by this is the actual time it's going to take you to do the project. Okay, so when you get the green light, you sit down and you actually go and create or prepare the data. Data preparation. So you prepare the data, you create the custom SQL if necessary, you load perhaps some CSV data and you create a data warehouse, you load data into that, just preparing the data, essentially cleaning data. Then you need to base this kind of on the number of queries that they're going to be. If you remember the spec sheet I just showed you a minute ago, you can see how many queries and how many dashboards there are going to be. So that kind of, you can evaluate based on that as well. Gives you an idea. And then there's the dashboard design. So putting together designing the dashboards, putting the interactivity options into the dashboards, that kind of thing. So those are the things that you will need to do during the project proper. Next up, we have project monitoring. So over the course of the duration of the project, you're going to want to meet with the client on one or more occasions to present them with what you've done so far and show them that it's meeting their requirements. And it also gives you the opportunity for the client to give you feedback and say, well, actually, we wanted this, but could we just have it like this instead? Maybe just move this query over to there. It could be anything, but it gives the client the opportunity to give you feedback. So there's the frequency and number of meetings with the client. Okay, so it can vary, as I said, on the complexity, the amount of work that there is to do. A lot of the data preparation stuff, the client isn't really going to want to be kept up to date with necessarily. All they're really interested in is the deliverables, i.e. the dashboards and stuff like that. Then you've got to consider corrections. So this is going to be a percentage that you apply based on the complexity, risk, and certainty assessment that you did earlier on. And it's going to be between 5 and 20%, which is going to be applied to the project proper. What I mean by the number of hours that you're going to estimate that the project proper is going to take. So if you think there's a high degree of certainty and there's a lot of information, there's low risk, it's not a very complex project, then you apply a 5% to that. But if it's something that's quite complex, can potentially be risky, and the client's not 100% sure about the requirements, or that it can go up to 20%. Okay, so that's something that you apply to the amount of time that you've associated to the project proper. Then you have post-project materials. Now, these could be things like manuals, user guides. So you deliver these dashboards, you put all this interactivity into it. You need to kind of create a document, and this isn't for every project. And you can say to the client that it's something that you can deliver, and usually they would want it. But it's like a user manual for all of the work that you've done. But it can also be manuals. It can also be things like the data structure. Because the way the data ends up being for you to create the dashboards isn't the way their data was at the beginning. So because you've created these custom SQL queries, these views of the database, you've perhaps created a data warehouse and put data into different tables, called them different things, created different fields, new calculated fields. Because you're going to be handing off this project not only the dashboards that you've created, but also it's more than likely that the client is going to want to then be hands-on with their project. So you kind of put the initial project into place. And sometimes the client will want to get their hands on it and evolve it themselves. So in this kind of situation, the post-project materials are actually quite important so that you can explain exactly how the data looks now compared to what it was to start with, what's feeding into the dashboards, how they were built, how to use them, that kind of thing. And SQL queries as well. Okay, any more questions? Please do put them in the comments. Because after this, I've only got a few more slides left, and then I'm done. So it could end up being quite a quick live stream this week. Okay, contingencies. Moving on. So this is another percentage applied to the project proper, i.e., the number of hours that you've attributed to actually doing the project, and it's based on the risk assessment. So. And again, you apply either a low, medium, or high risk. This time, low, these are my figures. You can choose your own. Low, 10%, medium, 25%, high, 50%. Now, 50% may sound like quite a lot to say that, this is how long the project's going to take, but based on the kind of degree of complexity and risk, I'm going to add an extra 50% of that. It may sound like a lot, but actually it isn't. Because a lot can go wrong with a project. A lot of projects can go perfectly well and are just really easy to do and simple and quickly delivered. No problem at all. But then you have others which are really, really complex. And because, as we were talking about earlier, with the pre-project review, you need to sort of assess feasibility. But as I said, unless you actually do the full project, you're never going to know 100% whether the project is 100% feasible. So you need to prepare for that. So that's where this percentage comes in: the 10, 25, or 50%. Okay, and finally, this is an example. Okay, this is kind of a typical example. This has the different factors in it that go into creating the overall total costing. And I said this a week in the last live stream. I think I said that when you cost a project, you could have a daily rate, but that is kind of misleading. It's only kind of like a yardstick, because normally when you think when you evaluate a project and the time it's going to take and therefore the cost based on your daily rate or hourly rate or whatever, what I normally say is you double it. Okay, and this gives you a perfect example of that. So pre-sales, so meeting with the client, maybe creating a demo dashboard, doing a bit of proof of concept. That could be about 3 hours maybe. Project review, so that is assessing the feasibility of it, perhaps testing a few joins, testing the databases, that kind of thing. It could be 4 hours, it could be a lot longer than that, but 4 hours. Pre-contract admin, this is making sure that the project specifications document is nailed down, and creating the proposal, which is a few pages long, to send to the client. That sets out the scope, the time, the cost, the budget, that kind of thing. That can take a couple of hours, can take more as well. This is just an example. The project proper. So you might say to yourself, well, with the kind of complexity of the data, the number of joins that I'm going to need to create, the number of custom SQL queries I'm going to create, the number of different data sources, perhaps there's sort of 3 online API-based data sources, there's a relational SQL database, and there are 2 or 3 Excel files. You can assess, and it's all an estimate at this point. There's no sort of there's no exact science to it. You kind of just have to assess, and this is why you add these contingencies and the corrections to it, the percentages, because you just don't know, you can't tell. So in this case, anyway, I've specified 2 8-hour days, so 16 hours total. Project monitoring, so that could be 2 hour meetings, it could be 2 half-hour meetings, but you charge for the hour. 2 hour meetings to make sure that the client is okay with the work that you've done so far. Now, this project is, I'd sort of evaluated it as 10% for corrections. So that's based on the 16 hours, so that's 1.6 hours extra. Then post-project materials, might take you a couple of hours to put that together, might be more, depending on the complexity and the deliverables, etc. Contingencies, I've given that 10% as well, which is another 1.6 hours, which gives us a total of 32.2 hours, which, as I said, is double, just over double, what the project actually you think is going to take in terms of time. So there you go. That is basically a quick-ish run through of things that you a quick run through of the factors that you take into account when you are costing a BI project. So, do you have any comments at all? Any questions regarding what I've just talked about? I'll give you a minute or so. Oh, while you're thinking, please don't forget to hit that like button. Do it now, please. Hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't. And if you feel you've got value out of this and you'd like to make a donation, you can use a super chat or the thanks button underneath the video. No questions. Well, if that's the case, I think we might wrap it up. It's going to be a shorter than usual, a half an hour stream this time round. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you found this useful. And as I said, this is the stuff that I've talked about in this video is not really secret information. It's stuff that you learn as a project manager. So it can be applied to any kind of project. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a really nice weekend. And if you've got any ideas for content that you'd like to see on my channel, or perhaps a new subject for next Friday's live stream, I have a more and more difficulty in trying to think of basic topics for each of the live streams. Do let me know. Make a comment on any one of my videos, because I get to see them all in the same place in the back office of YouTube. So any ideas, any comments, questions, put them on any of my videos and I'll make sure to answer every single one of them. Thank you very much indeed. Have a great weekend and I will see you very soon. Until the next time, stay BI curious.